So we'll now look at parallel and perpendicular lines. Let's begin with the definition. Parallel lines are two lines that never touch and never intersect. So when we're talking about parallel lines, we're talking about lines that run side by side. They never touch and they never cross. The two lines that are parallel will always have equal slopes. Remember that slope is a measure of the steepness. And so if the lines are running side by side, they're going to have the same steepness or the same slope. Perpendicular lines are lines that do intersect and form right angles. So when we're talking about perpendicular lines, we're talking about lines that do this. So they're going to intersect and they're going to form a right angle when they do. The slopes of perpendicular lines are what we call opposite reciprocals of each other. So what that means is that if you have two lines and the slope of one line is 2/3, and you have a line that's perpendicular to it, then the slope of the perpendicular line is going to be the opposite, which means the opposite sign. So if the 2/3 was positive, the slope of the perpendicular line is going to be negative, and the reciprocal. So the reciprocal means to flip your fraction over. So 2/3 becomes 3/2. Another example, if your slope of your first line is going to be, say your slope of your first line is -5, and you want the slope of a line that's perpendicular to it, remember that you're going to take the opposite, which means that since the 5 is already negative, it's now going to become positive. And then we're going to do the reciprocal. So remember that a whole number like 5 is actually sitting over 1, and so the reciprocal would be 1/5. And again, it's going to be a positive 1/5 so that you have that opposite nature of the signs. All right, so let's look at an example. We want to find the equation for the line that contains the point 2, -3 and is parallel to the line 2x plus y minus 6 is equal to 0. All right, so first of all, what you want to realize is that the line that's drawn in the picture, and you may not always have a picture, but the line that's drawn in the picture is the equation of this 2x plus y minus 6 is equal to 0. And then we want to find the point 2, -3. All right, so 2, -3 is going to sit right about here. Now again, you may not always have a picture, but I did a picture here just so that you could see what they're giving you. So they're giving you the equation of a line and they're giving you the point. And they want you to find an equation for a line that's parallel to the red line that goes through that point. So what that's going to look like, if it's going to run parallel, it's going to run side by side. And so it's going to look something like that, but maybe a little more parallel. Let me try one more time here. Okay, so something like that. All right, so what I need to do first is I need to take the line that they've given me and I need to find the slope. All right, so how do we find the slope of a line when it looks like this? Remember that the only way that we can look at the slope of a line is if the line is in slope-intercept form, which means that we need to solve it for y. So in order to do that, I'm going to get y by itself. So I'm going to add 6 to both sides of this expression. So that's going to give me 2x plus y is equal to 6. And then I'm going to subtract the 2x from both sides. All right, so my equation of my line is going to look like y is equal to negative 2x plus 6. Now, when the equation is in that format, solve for y, it's then the y is equal to mx plus b format, then we know that the slope sits in front of the x. So for this line, the slope is going to be negative 2. Now, that is the slope of this red line in the graph. So now we want to think about what we know about the line that we're trying to find the equation of, the purple one. So I know that that line has the point 2, negative 3. This is step 2. I also know that the slope of that line is going to be the same as the slope of the red line because they're parallel. So now we have the point and we have the slope, and so we know that we can use our point-slope formula to find the equation of the line. And so here we have our x1 and our y1 to plug in, and we have our slope. So let's go ahead and plug these values in. So in place of the y1, I'm going to put a negative 3. In place of the m for the slope, I'm going to put the negative 2. And in place of the x1, I'm going to put the 2. And then we'll work at simplifying. So y minus negative 3 is going to become y plus 3. I'm going to distribute on the right, so negative 2 times x will be negative 2x. Negative 2 times negative 2 will be positive 4. And then we're going to solve this thing for y, so the last step is going to be to subtract the 3 from both sides. And so our equation is going to look like y is equal to negative 2x plus 1. And that will be the equation of the purple line that we were trying to find. Okay, let's try one more, and let's do this one with a perpendicular example. So find the equation for the line that contains the point 1, negative 2. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and plot that point 1, negative 2, and is perpendicular to the line x plus 3y minus 6 is equal to 0. All right, so again, I've drawn the line x plus 3y minus 6 is equal to 0, and we've plotted the point. Now, the line that we want to find the equation of is perpendicular to the red line, and it goes through the point that I've noted. So that equation, or that line, is going to look something like this. All right, so let's begin by taking the line that they gave me the equation of, and let's find the slope. And again, I know that in order to find the slope, I have to solve the equation for y. So I'm going to begin by adding 6 to both sides. So that's going to give me x plus 3y is equal to 6. Solving for y, the next step will be to subtract the x from both sides. So that's going to give me 3y is equal to negative x plus 6. And then the last step is going to be to divide both sides by 3. And so our equation is going to look like y is equal to, and I'm going to break this up over the 3, so I've got a negative x over 3, and I have 6 over 3, and we know that 6 over 3 is really just 2. Okay, so now we have the equation in the right format. It's in the format y is equal to mx plus b. Remember that in order to determine the slope, you're looking at the number that sits in front of the x once you have it in that format. And so the number in front of the x is a negative 1/3. Remember that there is a 1 that sits in front of this x. And so the number in front of the x, the slope, is negative 1/3. Okay, so I'm going to make a note of that the slope of my red line, I have found that to be negative 1/3. Now we need to talk about the purple line, the line that we're trying to find the equation of. So what do we know about that line? Well, I know that it goes through the point 1, negative 2. And I also know the slope of that line. Because if the slope of the red line is negative 1/3, what is the slope of the purple line? Remember that we changed the sign, so it's going to become a positive. And we do the reciprocal. So 1/3, the reciprocal of 1/3 will be 3. And so our slope of our new line is going to be a positive 3. So now we have a point and we have the slope, so we can go ahead and set up our equation for point slope. And again, remember that your point, you have the x1 and you have the y1. And so we're going to work at plugging in. So in place of the y1, I'm going to plug a negative 2. In place of the slope, I'm going to plug a 3. And in place of the x1, I'm going to plug a positive 1. And then we'll work at simplifying. So y minus negative 2 is going to become y plus 2. I'm going to distribute on the right, so 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. And the last step, solving for y, I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. And so our final answer for this problem will be y is equal to 3x minus 5. And that will be the equation of the line that is perpendicular to the line that they gave me.